Sir, do you have time to answer a couple questions about Wonder Woman? Sure, I got time for about 3. My first question is, how does Wonder Woman take, what's Wonder Woman's take on patriarchy? Which way does it sway? Well, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's kind of interesting. Wonder Woman's more, it takes the matriarchal side of things. It shows a society full of women that is in peace, that is in harmony, that is completely okay. It shows that a big group of female leaders is something that could work out. A society that has no fighting, no wars. It is described as peace and harmony. And I think the most interesting thing about that is that, like, if you look at the first scene of the movie, the men show up at the border of the Amazonian colony, and the second they get there, war ensues. The first thing that happens when guys show up is that there's a war and there's fighting. And I mean, I think that just kind of shows that maybe that's the guy's way to figure things out. It's not through common sense and reason, but it's more about physical violence. I think Wonder Woman did a great job showing that. And I think also another thing about that is that if you look at that scene, the guys have machine guns and guns, whereas the women just have whips and some lassos. It's not exactly very effective, and I think that could represent something more. Sure, you could say it's just because it's a place that doesn't need the advanced weapons because they're okay, but maybe it's more a place, maybe it's more showing that there's been a halt on a movement or a stoppage on something that needs a revival. My next question is, what do you know about the director? Well, I'm really glad you brought up the director, because the director is Patty Mills, and she's the first female director to direct a superhero movie. I just think that's crazy. Think about all the hundreds and hundreds of superhero movies, and she's the first female to direct one. That just seems insane to me. And I mean, she's won her fair share of awards for it. She's won things like Best Director or Most Important Woman in the Film Industry. And those are some really cool things. And I think that Patty Mills is really demonstrating something more to all of us, because she has made it in a industry that is not kind to women. I mean, if you look at Hollywood, come on, we've all seen what's happened. We've all seen the news, we've all read the articles. It's not an industry that women can just walk into and make it. I think really it's like a stepping stone. Patty Mills Patty Jenkins is making a movement bigger than herself. Sure, it's one movie. Sure, doesn't seem like a lot, but I think it's something that's really underestimated. It's something really great Patty is doing. Alright, well, I'll get you out on this. How does sisterhood come into play during the movie? Well, I think there's a couple scenes that stand out to me. One would be that about midway through, in the midst of war, Diana is in the bunker going against the Germans, and she sees a struggling woman. She sees a mom and her child struggling, and she takes the time to just ask, hey, how can I help you? And I think that's really does show the sisterhood, because none of the guys are standing there like, hey, let me help you. None of the guys are stopping their day to go out there and help. Just the only other female there. And I think that's really strong. It's showing that, like, hey, no one else is going to help you, but I'm here, and that's the sisterhood coming through, if you ask me. I thought that showed it a lot. And then, I mean, you could go back to their society. It's a society full of women. It's a society, striving society, and it's fine. It's all built on sisterhood. And I mean, I think something interesting for me is that there will always be problems in the world, and sometimes they will seem too hard or too just difficult to fix. But sometimes the leading fix can just be to push back a little bit and see the outcome.